If you've been waiting to feel motivated before taking action, this video will show you why that wait is quietly stealing your future, and how doing the work even when you don't feel like it is the exact habit that changes everything by the end of this video. Most people don't fail because they lack talent or intelligence. They fail because there are days when the mind feels heavy, the heart feels tired, and every excuse sounds reasonable. You tell yourself, I'll start tomorrow when I feel ready. But tomorrow keeps moving and life keeps asking the same question: will you act or will you delay again? If you understand what I'm about to share, you'll learn how disciplined people move forward on their worst days, not by forcing motivation, but by using a deeper inner rule that never depends on mood. Miss this, and you may stay trapped in a cycle of strong intentions and weak results. Stay with me, because in this video I'll break down 7 powerful truths that will teach you how to act with calm strength, even when you feel tired, unmotivated, or unsure. And that's where real transformation begins. The first powerful truth is this: feelings are terrible leaders. They speak loudly, confidently, and emotionally, but they have no loyalty to your future. One morning they tell you to go all in, to chase the dream, to believe in yourself. The next morning, the same feelings tell you to stay in bed, to slow down, to wait. If you hand your life's direction to something that changes every few hours, you will keep moving in circles. Feelings are real, yes, but they are not wise. They respond to comfort, not to purpose. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they listen too closely to how they feel in the moment. I don't feel ready. I don't feel confident. I don't feel motivated. And slowly, without realizing it, feelings become the boss. But feelings were never meant to lead your life. They were meant to respond to it. When feelings sit in the driver's seat, discipline is pushed to the back, and consistency is locked out of the car completely. Here is the dangerous part: feelings always sound logical. They don't shout nonsense. They whisper excuses that make sense. Rest today. Start tomorrow. You've worked hard enough already. Now is not the right time. And because the voice is soft, people trust it. But that voice is not protecting your dreams. It is protecting your comfort. And comfort has never built anything meaningful. Comfort only keeps things the same, even when the same is slowly destroying you. Look closely at any person who is doing something meaningful with their life. You will notice something powerful about them. They do not feel like showing up every day. They simply show up anyway. They don't wake up inspired every morning. They wake up committed. Commitment does not need excitement. It does not need perfect conditions. Commitment only needs a decision that is honored repeatedly, even when emotions argue against it. Feelings love the present moment. Responsibility loves the long term. That is why they are always in conflict. Your feelings ask, what feels good right now? Responsibility asks, what will matter 5 years from now? One thinks in minutes. The other thinks in decades. When you learn to choose responsibility over emotion, something strange happens. Life becomes calmer. You stop fighting yourself. You stop negotiating with moods. You act, and your mind slowly learns to follow. This does not mean ignoring your emotions or becoming cold. It means understanding their role. Feelings are indicators, not instructions. They can tell you that something is hard, uncomfortable, or unfamiliar, but they cannot decide what you do next. When you act despite resistance, you teach your mind a new lesson: that you are in control. Over time, feelings stop screaming. They learn their place. Every strong life is built on this quiet shift. From how do I feel today to what is required of me today. That single change separates those who wait from those who rise. When feelings lead, progress stops. When values lead, growth becomes inevitable. And the moment you stop asking permission from your emotions, you begin stepping into the version of yourself that does not need motivation to move. The second powerful truth is this: discipline is not about control, it is about self-respect. Most people misunderstand discipline because they see it as force, pressure, or punishment. They imagine strict rules, harsh routines, and no room to breathe. But real discipline is quieter than that. It is the calm decision to treat your own word as something valuable. When you say you will do something and you actually do it, even when no one is watching, you send a message to yourself that you matter. Every time you break a promise to yourself, something small but important cracks inside. You may not notice it in one day or 1 week, but over time it builds. You stop trusting your own intentions. You stop believing your own plans. You begin to think, what's the point of trying? This is not laziness. This is loss of self-trust. Discipline repairs that trust slowly, quietly, one kept promise at a time. People often say they want confidence, but confidence is not built by thinking positive thoughts. Confidence is built by evidence. And the strongest evidence you can give yourself is consistency. When you show up even when it is inconvenient, your mind starts to believe you are dependable. Not talented, not special, dependable. And dependability is far more powerful than talent, because talent without discipline collapses under pressure. Discipline also removes the daily mental struggle. When you rely on motivation, every task becomes a debate. Should I do this now or later? Am I in the mood? Do I have enough energy? This constant negotiation is exhausting. Discipline ends the argument. It says, this is who I am. This is what I do. There is peace in that clarity. Fewer decisions, less stress, more progress. Many people think discipline makes life smaller. In reality, it makes life lighter. When your actions are aligned with your values, guilt disappears. Regret loses its power. You stop carrying the weight of unfinished promises. You sleep better, not because life is easy, but because your conscience is clear. Discipline does not drain you. It frees you from the chaos of inconsistency. Self-respect grows when you stop needing external pressure. When no one has to remind you. When no one has to push you. When you do the right thing simply because you said you would. This is where real strength is formed, quiet strength, the kind that does not need recognition, the kind that stays steady when motivation disappears and excitement fades. The most powerful form of discipline is gentle but firm. It does not shout, it does not insult you for failing. It simply brings you back to your standards again and again. Not perfectly, not dramatically, but honestly. And over time, that honesty with yourself becomes your foundation. You stop chasing motivation because you no longer need it to move forward. The third powerful truth is this: motivation is a result, not a requirement. Most people believe motivation is something you must have before you begin. They wait for the spark, the push, the emotional high that makes effort feel easy. But motivation does not visit people who are sitting still. It appears when movement has already started. Action is the door. Motivation only walks in after you open it. Think about how many dreams die in the waiting room. Not because they were impossible, but because their owners kept waiting to feel ready. Readiness is a feeling, and feelings are unstable. They rise when things are going well, and disappear the moment effort becomes uncomfortable. If readiness were required, nothing meaningful would ever begin. Progress belongs to those who move first and sort their emotions later. Action changes the way the brain works. When you take even a small step, your mind receives new information. It sees proof instead of imagination. This proof builds momentum. Momentum creates energy. And that energy feels like motivation, but it did not come first. It was earned through movement. This is why starting is always harder than continuing. The first step has no emotional reward, it only has resistance. Waiting for motivation often sounds responsible. People say they want to start when the time is right. But the right time is not a moment, it is a mindset. And that mindset is built by doing, not waiting. Every time you act without motivation, you train your mind to understand that action is possible even when feelings are low. This removes fear. Fear feeds on delay. Action starves it. Small actions are especially powerful because they lower resistance. You don't need a big burst of energy to take a small step. But once that step is taken, something shifts inside. Your body warms up. Your thoughts become clearer. Doubt loses its grip. The task that felt heavy begins to feel manageable. This is not magic. It is momentum doing its quiet work. Motivation is unreliable because it depends on emotion. Action is reliable because it depends on choice. When you choose to act, you take control back from your moods. You stop being a passenger and become the driver. Over time, your mind learns a new pattern. I move first. Feelings follow. This pattern creates confidence that does not disappear on hard days. The most disciplined people are not more motivated than others. They have simply learned this truth earlier. They no longer wait for inspiration to strike. They create it through action. They understand that energy grows when it is used. And the more often they act without motivation, the less power motivation has over them. Movement becomes their default, not their reward. The fourth powerful truth is this: your mind is designed to keep you comfortable, not to help you grow. This is not a weakness, it is a survival system. Long ago, comfort meant safety. Familiar patterns meant protection. But today, that same system often works against your progress. The moment you step towards something new, your mind sounds an alarm. Not because you are in danger, but because you are outside what it knows. The mind uses clever tricks to pull you back. It does not say, stop growing. It says, let's be practical. It questions timing. It highlights risks. It reminds you of past failures. All of this feels responsible, even intelligent. But what it is really doing is protecting the familiar version of you. Growth threatens identity, and the mind will always defend identity before it defends potential. Discomfort is the signal that confuses most people. They feel nervous, tense, uncertain, and they assume something is wrong. But discomfort is not a warning sign. It is a transition sign. It shows that you are stretching beyond what you have practiced. Muscles grow by tearing slightly. Confidence grows the same way. If you avoid discomfort, you avoid expansion. There is no other path. The mind loves shortcuts and certainty. Growth offers neither. That is why the mind prefers habits that feel safe, even if they lead nowhere. It would rather repeat a known struggle than face an unknown challenge. This is why people stay in situations they complain about. The pain is familiar, and familiarity feels safer than change, even when change is better. When you understand this, you stop arguing with your discomfort. You stop asking it to disappear. You stop labeling it as a problem. Instead, you see it as proof that you are doing something meaningful. This shift changes everything. The same feeling that once stopped you now guides you. Discomfort becomes confirmation, not rejection. Progress begins when you stop asking your mind for permission. You thank it for its concern, and you move anyway. Over time, the mind adapts. What once felt terrifying becomes normal. What once felt impossible becomes routine. This is how growth actually happens. Not through sudden bravery, but through repeated exposure to discomfort that you choose, not avoid. The people who move ahead in life are not fearless. They simply stop letting comfort decide their actions. They learned that ease is not a sign of correctness, and difficulty is not a sign of failure. They understood that the mind will always vote for safety, but growth requires a different authority, and that authority must come from you. The fifth powerful truth is this: consistency matters more than intensity, even though intensity looks more impressive. Most people are attracted to big effort because it feels heroic. One long night of work, one extreme workout, one emotional burst of change. It feels powerful in the moment. But intensity is loud and short-lived. Consistency is quiet and patient, and that is why it works when everything else fails. Intensity depends on mood and energy. When you feel good, you push hard. When you don't, you disappear. Consistency does not care how you feel. It only asks one simple question each day: did you show up? Not perfectly, not dramatically, just honestly. And that daily honesty compounds in ways most people underestimate. What seems small today becomes massive over time. The human mind loves results but hates repetition. Doing the same small action again and again feels boring. There is no rush, no applause, no clear sign that something is changing. This is where most people quit. They mistake boredom for uselessness. But boredom is often the space where growth is happening quietly, beneath the surface, invisible for a long time. Think about how trust is built. Not through one grand gesture, but through reliability. Showing up when you said you would. Keeping your word repeatedly. Progress works the same way. Your future does not trust one intense effort. It trusts patterns. And patterns are formed by consistency, not by moments of passion. Consistency also protects you from self-sabotage. When goals are tied to big effort, missing one day feels like failure. That feeling leads to guilt, and guilt often leads to quitting. But when the goal is simply to show up in a small way, missing once does not destroy momentum. You return the next day without drama. This is how progress stays alive. There is a deep confidence that comes from steady effort. You stop chasing quick results and start trusting the process. You become less reactive and more grounded. You understand that growth is not a sprint, it is a rhythm. And once that rhythm is established, it carries you forward even on low energy days. The most powerful changes in life rarely come from extreme action. They come from ordinary effort done consistently for a long time. This truth is not exciting, but it is freeing. You no longer need to be extraordinary every day. You only need to be present. And presence, repeated enough times, reshapes everything. The sixth powerful truth is this: your future is shaped in moments that feel ordinary, unnoticed, and unimpressive. Most people imagine success as something dramatic, something loud, something that arrives with recognition. But real progress is built in silence. It is built when no one is watching, when there is no pressure to perform, and when the work feels almost invisible. These are the moments that decide everything, even though they rarely feel important at the time. The mind craves significance. It wants moments that feel meaningful right away. When effort feels boring, the mind assumes it is useless. But boredom is often a sign that you are doing something steady, something repeatable, something that does not rely on excitement. The truth is, the work that changes your life rarely excites you in the moment. It simply asks you to return again and again. Most people quit not because something is hard, but because it is quiet. There is no immediate reward, no external validation, no clear signal that progress is happening. This silence is uncomfortable. It makes people doubt themselves. They begin to ask, is this even working? And without patience, they walk away just before the results begin to form. The ordinary moments are powerful because they shape habits. Habits are formed through repetition, not intensity. When you do something small every day, you train your identity. You stop seeing the action as effort and start seeing it as part of who you are. This shift is subtle but life-changing. You no longer rely on willpower, you rely on routine. In these quiet moments, discipline is tested. Not in big decisions, but in small choices. Do you show up when it would be easier not to? Do you stay focused when distraction is available? Do you keep your word when no one will know if you don't? These choices seem minor, but they accumulate. And accumulation creates momentum that cannot be faked. The absence of applause is actually a gift. It removes pressure. It allows you to grow without performing. You are free to learn, fail, adjust, and improve without judgment. This is where real skill is built. Not under bright lights, but in steady practice that no one documents or celebrates. Over time, these unnoticed efforts begin to reveal themselves, not all at once but gradually. Your confidence increases, your abilities sharpen, your standards rise, and one day, people will call your results overnight success, never seeing the long line of ordinary days that made it possible. But you will know, because your future was built in moments that never felt special, yet mattered more than anything else. The seventh powerful truth is this: action must come before emotion, not after it. Most people believe feelings are signals that tell them when to move. They wait for confidence to appear, for fear to disappear, for clarity to arrive. But emotions are followers, not leaders. They respond to what you do, not what you think about doing. When you reverse this order, life begins to move again. Waiting for emotions to change keeps people trapped in preparation. They read, plan, think, and imagine, but they do not step forward. This creates the illusion of progress without the risk of movement. Action feels dangerous because it removes excuses. Once you act, you expose yourself to reality. But reality, even when imperfect, is always more powerful than imagination. The body understands action better than the mind understands motivation. When you move, your physiology shifts, your breath changes, your posture changes, your energy changes. These physical shifts send new signals to the brain. Confidence begins to form not as a thought, but as a state. This is why movement can change mood instantly, even when nothing external has changed. Fear loses power when it is challenged directly. When you act despite fear, the mind learns that fear is survivable. It does not disappear, but it shrinks. Each time you move forward, fear becomes less convincing. Over time, it stops controlling decisions. This is how courage is built, not by waiting for fear to leave, but by walking with it until it gets tired of following. Emotion follows evidence. When you see yourself take action, your self-image begins to change. You stop seeing yourself as someone who waits and start seeing yourself as someone who moves. This identity shift is critical. Motivation becomes a byproduct of who you believe you are, and that belief is shaped by behavior, not intention. Many people search for clarity before acting, but clarity comes from engagement. You understand your path by walking it. You refine your direction by making mistakes. Sitting still provides no feedback. Action gives information. Information creates understanding. Understanding creates confidence. The sequence cannot be reversed. The most powerful moment in any journey is the moment you stop negotiating with your emotions and start honoring your decisions. When action becomes your first response instead of your last option, progress accelerates. You no longer wait to feel strong. You act. And strength slowly builds behind you, step by step. So if you take anything from this, let it be this simple understanding: your life will not change when your feelings change. Your life will change when your actions change. You do not need perfect emotions, perfect confidence, or perfect timing. You need the courage to move while everything inside you is uncertain. Stop waiting to feel ready. Ready is not a feeling, it is a decision. Every step you take in resistance builds strength you cannot gain any other way. Every time you act without motivation, you rewrite who you believe you are. And that belief shapes everything that follows. One day, you will look back and realize the breakthrough was never dramatic. It was built in quiet choices, repeated daily. When no one was watching, you didn't become stronger because life got easier. You became stronger because you kept moving when it was hard. So do the work, on the good days and the heavy days. Do it when your mind doubts and your emotions resist. Do it without applause and without certainty. Because the person you are becoming is being shaped right now by what you choose to do even when you don't feel like it.